Trump sign this bill.
All right, it is Thursday, February 14th. It's Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Of course. And two high-stakes votes happening just hours from now to end the border battle. But the bill is facing new resistance that could derail it before it even reaches the president's desk.
That's right. We are live with the sticking points that have lawmakers scrambling to avoid another possible shutdown.
Would you support an armed faction within Venezuela that engages in war crimes, crimes against humanity, or genocide?
I am not going to respond to that question.
The same freshman congresswoman who made headlines for her anti-Semitic tweet is making waves yet again.
Yeah, her unexpected attack on a veteran U.S. diplomat that turned a standard House Foreign Affairs hearing into some gripping television. And take notes.
The 4-year-old who's setting the bar pretty high for the best Valentine's Day date ever. Listen up, guys. Fox and Friends First continues right now. Songs you work out to?
Old song. Old song.
Oldie but a goodie.
Yeah.
Good morning and happy Valentine's Day to everyone out there. You are watching Fox and Friends First on this Thursday morning. I'm Jillian Neely.
I'm Rob Schmidt. Thanks for getting up early with us and a late night on Capitol Hill. But we do now know what is exactly in that bipartisan border agreement.
The question now, will the president sign it if it passes the House and Senate? Griff Jenkins is live in Washington with the very latest. Good morning to you, Griff.
Good morning, Jillian and Rob. Yeah, here it is. Have a look. There you go. 1,159 pages of light reading. The president says he doesn't want to shut government down, but he's approaching it with caution.
We'll be looking for landmines because you could have that. You know, it's been known to happen before to people. I don't want to see a shutdown.
All right, so what's in it? Take a look here. $2.37 billion total in border security funding, of which $1.375 billion for fencing and RGV sector, $725 million for technology, $270 million for facility improvements. But remember, it has a path to reduction as it also includes a 1.9% pay raise to federal civilian workers, which she notes in her press release, quote, overrides the president's decision to deny them a raise. It has $3.8 billion invested in the census, which she notes is to, quote, combat the Trump administration's assault on the census, and $9.3 billion for EPA and Land and Water Conservation Fund to reject the Trump administration's radical cuts. We'll see if the president views these as landmines or anything else. Meanwhile, Democrats are encouraging him to sign off.
President Trump, sign this bill. Neither side got everything it wanted in this bill, but both sides want to avoid another shutdown. Democrats, Republicans, House, Senate.
Now, lawmakers on both sides appear confident that it will pass with the House and Senate, with some rejections. Final vote possibly by tonight, paving the way for his signature. But, guys, he's been known to change his mind before. And one thing's for sure, it's been a lot of late night reading for those at the White House. Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, it's ridiculous that they expect anybody to read all that is just ridiculous. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Wow. Well, lawmakers are going back and forth on the border deal, but our men and women down at the border are waiting in limbo for the help they need.
Former border chief under President Obama, Mark Morgan, says if this bill passes, they still won't get it.
From a border security perspective, this proposal is an absolute failure. They not only didn't listen to the experts on the tools and resources they needed, they have absolutely rejected that. And one thing I want to add that's very important, American people need to understand what they're doing with ICE beds. So think about this. This proposal reduces the ICE beds, and I'm not a mathematician, but reduces the ICE beds. As you just pointed out, illegal immigration is skyrocketing. Again, you don't have to be a mathematician. What does that mean? Catch and release 2.0. They're going to have to release them.
Democrats have been slammed for trying to reduce the number of ICE beds as a roundabout means to abolish the agency. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens.
First responders honor a fallen NYPD detective as a procession takes his body home to Long Island. Services for Detective Brian Simonson will begin Monday, I should say. The 19-year veteran of the force will be laid to rest next Wednesday. Simonson was shot and killed by friendly fire during a robbery in Queens, New York City. A sergeant was also hit but is expected to survive. A suspect now charged with murder is recovering after being shot by police. Detective Simonson, whose nickname was Smiles, is remembered as someone who would, quote, do anything for anyone. He leaves behind a wife and 2 kids. Sad story out of New York. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis orders flags to half staff to mark 1 year since the Parkland school shooting last Valentine's Day. A moment of silence will be held at 3 p.m. today to honor the 17 people killed by a gunman at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. The governor is now calling for an investigation into whether Florida schools are complying with gun and school safety laws enacted after that tragedy. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd will join us in the 6 o'clock hour of Fox and Friends to talk about all of that.
One of the women accusing Virginia's lieutenant governor of sexual assault will meet with prosecutors to discuss her claims. Vanessa Tyson's lawyer says a time for that meeting has not been set. She says Justin Fairfax sexually assaulted her 15 years ago in Boston. In a statement, the Democrat says he's open to a full, fair, and non-political investigation. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar goes after President Trump's new envoy to Venezuela.
Would you support an armed faction within Venezuela that engages in war crimes, crimes against humanity or genocide, as you did in Guatemala, El Salvador, and Nicaragua?
I am not going to respond to that question. I'm sorry. I don't think this entire line of questioning is meant to be real questions, and so I will not reply.
The Minnesota Democrat repeatedly questioned the former Reagan State Department official about the Iran-Contra scandal and past U.S. involvement in Latin American civil conflicts. Elliott Abrams was appointed to help lead U.S. policy on the unrest in Venezuela.
All right, House Republicans submit a draft summary of the controversial Green New Deal. It comes after the Senate is forcing a vote on this radical new proposal.
Todd Pyro joins us live with how Democrats are responding to the push for transparency. Good morning, Todd.
Happy Valentine's Day to you, too. The Green New Deal aims to transform our country to combat climate change, but also promises a job to those unwilling to work, gets rid of planes, and, of course, as we love to talk about, eliminates flatulent cows. Mitch McConnell forcing Democrats to take a position by putting it to a vote.
I've noted with great interest the Green New Deal, and we're going to be voting on that in the Senate. We'll give everybody an opportunity to go on record and see how they feel.
As you might imagine, this is eliciting varied reactions, starting with the 2020 contenders, from Kamala Harris doubling down on her support.
Senator Harris, Mitch McConnell bringing the Green New Deal for a vote. Do you support that? All right.
I support the Green New Deal.
To Kirsten Gillibrand calling out McConnell.
I think it's a political ploy at this point, but we have an urgent crisis of global climate change. If we have a vote, we have a vote. It's just a political stunt.
Rob's good buddy, Bob Menendez, taking another combative approach like he did with Rob, threatening to call police on a reporter.
I'm wondering why you won't answer questions on the Green Deal.
I won't answer questions to the Daily Caller, period. You're trash.
Why do you think we're trash, sir?
Don't keep harassing me.
And finally, the brains behind it all, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, getting feisty, tweeting, "Don't mess with our future. When it comes to climate, it's all our lives at stake. The younger you are, the more consequences you'll see. It's life and death for us, and we will fight like it." President, of course, weighing in, saying it would shut down American energy, describing it as a high school term paper that got a low mark. And Rob, I'd say you got off easy with Menendez compared to that Daily Caller reporter.
Hey, nobody likes it when the press is after you. We get it.
True.
Imagine what the president thinks.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you,
Todd, thank you so
problem.
much. All right, breaking overnight, the city of Portland, Oregon, voting to stop cooperating with the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. Supporters say that task force targets left-wing activists and is ultimately ineffective. The city's police chief objects this move, saying it will hinder investigations.
We may be walled off from the day-to-day information from other agencies that is vital to protecting our community.
All right, Portland first left the JTTF after the 9/11 terror attacks and then signed back up back in 2015.
Melania Trump will spend Valentine's Day warming hearts at a children's hospital. The First Lady will participate in activities with young patients from the Children's Inn at the National Institute of Health in Maryland. Melania visited the same hospital last Valentine's Day, making cards and decorating cookies with many of the kids. It's always nice to see that.
Absolutely.
Love it.
All right, 10 minutes after the hour, we just revealed what's in that bipartisan border package, although it's 1,200 pages. Is it enough to secure the border? We're going to find out today with two critical votes. And up next, Georgia Congresswoman Jody Hice joins us live with how he plans to, Congressman, I should say, with how he plans to vote and why.
Do you want to do business in Los Angeles? There's one thing you need to do first. How California liberals are taking a shot at the Second Amendment. Stay right there. We're coming back. Good morning and welcome back. Just hours ago, the bipartisan border bill was unveiled to lawmakers, and now they're scrambling to read it before voting later today.
Yeah, if it's even possible. The bill offers just under $1.4 billion for 55 miles of new border barriers. Is that enough for Republicans to back this and avoid a shutdown Friday at midnight? Georgia Congressman Jody Hice joins us live now to explain. Sir, thank you for coming on this morning. We do appreciate it. This bill, obviously, I don't think anybody's going to have time to read it before they have to vote. They got to push it through so quick. What do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. It came out while we're all in bed asleep. Here we're waking up in the morning, getting going, and finding out that we've got nearly 1,200 pages worth of bills in front of us, for which we've not seen. And the Democrats, interestingly, made a promise that this type of thing would not happen, that we would have 72 hours before being called on to vote on a bill. And this is a bill that was done behind closed doors. Even many of the negotiators themselves had no idea what's in it. And now we're expected to vote on it today. I certainly cannot go there.
Let's take a look at just some of the main points that are in it, starting with $1.375 billion for 55 miles of fencing. It also includes $1 billion for other border security programs. As we've discussed over the last few days, a path to reduction in ICE detention beds and more than $400 million in humanitarian aid, for detained migrants. Just those points there. What do you see as problematic? What do you like in it? What do you think?
You know, again, this is a drop in the bucket to deal with the crisis that we're facing on the border. Here we have a president of the United States trying to do everything in his power to secure our borders and secure the safety of the American people. And Congress yet again is failing under the leadership of Dan Pelosi and the Democrats. They are unwilling to negotiate in good faith, and this does not come anywhere close to addressing the real problem.
Yeah, you're taking the Mark Meadows side of this. Obviously, some in the GOP say this is just a down payment on the wall and that maybe they'll get to more of it in September when this is up for a negotiation again. I want to talk about the ICE detention beds here for a second, though, because both sides for a moment there were kind of claiming victory on that. The Democrats really pushed for a reduction there, but Republicans say they're going to be able to have as many detention beds and detain as many people as they have in the past.
Yeah, again, you know, you can push back and forth like a ping pong ball as to who's getting the victory on this. To me, the issue is what is the need on the border and the agents that are dealing with these individuals day in and day out, and they need the ability to apprehend these individuals and to hold them in custody as long as needed. We're dealing with many criminals and folks that just need to be detained. None of them should be released into our country, and that is the fear. That's what I want to make sure does not take place.
Knowing what you know about what the president wants and what he's been fighting for, if this were to get to his desk, do you think he would sign it?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll wait and see. Again, the president is committed to doing what he can to secure our borders. I think this does not come anywhere close enough to doing that. Congress, yet again, as I mentioned a while ago, I believe has failed miserably. And so if the president, it seems to me that he's going to be left with no other choice but to take action on his own. And if he chooses to do that, I would fully support him.
Yeah, some numbers that we got actually are pretty interesting. When you take wall out of the equation here and you show what people actually want at the border, about 66% of people are all for some kind of a barrier at the border. That's a pretty solid number if you're a Republican or if you're the president. Does this show that he has kind of shined a light on the issue down there, and by showing these Border Patrol agents say they need a barrier, he's really pushed public opinion here?
Yeah, there's no question about that. In my district, it's 83% of the folks who believe we need a barrier of some sort. And as we all know, barriers work. Everywhere they've gone up, they work. And that is the issue, isn't it? I mean, we want a safe and secure border. And it's ultimately, although there's more involved to that than just a wall, it's also very much true that you cannot ultimately have a secure border if you don't have some sort of barrier keeping bad people out. So, yeah, the American people understand that, and they want it.
And then kind of, I guess, in opposition to that, when you look at some of the other numbers on this poll, 56% oppose the president bypassing Congress and declaring a national emergency to build the wall. So some people wonder if he even signs this, would he still have to declare a national emergency?
Well, I would think ultimately the question is not the president bypassing Congress. It's Congress bypassing the president. It's Congress bypassing our constitutional responsibility to keep our borders safe. That's the issue. And what the American people is not, what they want is not compromise. They want security. And the president is on the right side of this issue. Congress and the leadership of the Democrats are on the wrong side of this issue. And it's time to secure the border. How difficult is that for the Democrats to understand?
A lot of thinking is that he'll stay short of the national emergency, maybe move some of that money around like he can. We'll see what he does.
I know you've got a busy couple hours ahead of you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Y'all have a great day.
Appreciate it. You too.
1,100 pages to read here in a couple hours. All right. Thank you, sir. All right. 20 minutes after the hour, President Trump is demanding California return billions of federal dollars from a disaster of a high-speed rail project that has basically failed at this point. But the governor is not budging.
And with all due respect, I have no interest in sending back $3.5 billion of federal funding that was allocated to this project to President Donald Trump.
But isn't this part of the Green New Deal? The latest on the move to abandon the project.
Welcome back. California's Governor Gavin Newsom derailing plans for a high-speed train from San Francisco to L.A. The president calls this failed expensive project, a green disaster.
William Lajeunesse has more on the move to abandon the project.
Our goal is to give 80% of Americans access to high-speed rail.
President Barack Obama gave California $3.5 billion in federal tax money to build a bullet train, with the understanding it would travel L.A. to San Francisco in 2 hours and 40 minutes. That is not going to happen. Now, will the Trump administration go after California for failure to perform? That's too early to tell. But Governor Gavin Newsom of California hopes to keep the project on life support so he won't have to repay those billions, despite President Trump.
And with all due respect, I have no interest in sending back $3.5 billion of federal funding that was allocated to this project to President Donald Trump.
Governor Newsom shrunk the project by 80%, the money already spent or appropriated. Not L.A. to San Francisco, but a tiny stretch in the Central Valley. Not 500 miles, but 100 miles. Skeptics told Governor Jerry Brown for years the train could not be built for what he promised. The Democrats and unions supported it. Poor management, cost overruns, and lawsuits made the project unrealistic and unsustainable.
The current project, as planned, would cost too much and respectfully take too long. There's been too little oversight and not enough transparency.
For those still hoping for faster travel between the sector, entrepreneur Elon Musk is testing Hyperloop transportation, underground pods, and the promise of a trip under 45 minutes. In Los Angeles, William Lajeunesse, Fox News.
Elon going to do it better. All right, now the question is, will the federal government ever get any of that money back?
Former California Assemblyman Chuck DeVore says the state is at fault here and needs to pay it back to help fund a border wall.
Well, it got too expensive. The travel times were way too slow. The ticket prices were about double what you'd pay for Southwest Airlines. And it became very apparent that they promised something that they couldn't deliver. They said they were going to have this project that would have all this private money and investment that wouldn't have to cause taxes to go up. Look, they haven't gotten a penny in private investment. The federal government's put $3.5 billion into it, and now they're in material breach of their agreement with the federal government. I think the federal government should ask for that money back and use it to build the wall.
California Governor Gavin Newsom says claims that the project has been canceled are fake news.
And he was so indignant there, and it's, you know, it's curious because it's not Trump's money the way he makes it sound. It's our money.
Yeah.
And it's $3 billion that California wasted of our money, and he just doesn't want to give it back.
Well, and if $3.5 billion was allocated to that and it's not going to happen, then yeah, I mean, you can't just keep the money and do something else with it.
Must be nice to be a politician, huh? All right, 27 minutes after the hour, double trouble for Delta Airlines. Turbulence, violent turbulence, rocking one flight in midair, and flames and smoke filling another.
Yikes.
And then you can see the people who aren't belted in. They're hitting the ceiling.
How the airline is responding this morning.
And can El Chapo's multi-billion-dollar drug fortune really pay for the border wall? A former Texas prosecutor joins us live to break down how he thinks it can be done. Hope you're having a good morning so far. Welcome back. A look at our top headlines that we're following this morning. First, the text of the bipartisan border security bill has been released. As expected, it includes about $1.3 billion in wall funding and about $1 billion for technology and facility upgrades. A final vote is expected on Capitol Hill today, but the president says he'll need to review it for, quote, landmines before signing it.
Next, Paul Manafort's plea deal is now void. A federal judge ruling the former Trump campaign manager intentionally lied to special counsel Bob Mueller and made false statements to the FBI and a grand jury. The decision likely means Manafort will be up for a harsher sentence at his hearing next month. Manafort's attorneys say he did not lie.
And finally, a House panel advancing its most significant gun control bill in years. The measure would require background checks for all gun sales and most transfers in the U.S. The House Judiciary Committee debated the bill for 9 hours before voting on it. It is expected to be voted on by the full House within the next few weeks.
The FBI asking for help identifying the women in these chilling sketches. Samuel Little drew these sketches in his jail cell. He says he killed all of these women. Little is serving a life sentence in Texas after being convicted of 3 murders. He says he has killed 90 women across the United States over the past 4 decades. If confirmed, Little would be one of the deadliest killers in U.S. history.
That'll give you chills. ICE files a detainer on the illegal immigrant accused of killing his ex-girlfriend, stuffing her body in a suitcase and dumping it in the woods. Officials say Javier da Silva is from Portugal and his visa expired in 2017. Da Silva admits to dumping Valerie Reyes' body in Connecticut, but insists she died from a head injury. If convicted in her killing, he could face the death penalty.
All right, the students at the center of this viral confrontation in Washington, D.C. have been cleared of any wrongdoing.
An independent investigation found no racist or offensive statements were made by the Covington Catholic students. As you know, they were widely criticized after coming face-to-face with a Native American activist at March for Life rally last month. The agency concluding, saying, quote, the statements we obtained from students and chaperones are remarkably consistent, and the statements are consistent with the videos we reviewed. And there was a lot of video out there.
Yeah. And now here come the defamation lawsuits. Keep you posted on that. Senator Ted Cruz doubling down on his calls to have convicted cartel kingpin El Chapo pay for the border wall.
The Department of Justice estimates of the global worth of El Chapo's criminal network worldwide were roughly $14 billion. And that means we could do this without spending even a penny of taxpayer money. Those billions that El Chapo has were made trafficking illegally across the U.S. border. And it is only right that those ill-gotten gains go to fixing the problems and stopping the next narco trafficker.
So based on the argument, is this a legal possibility, and how exactly would it work? We are asking Texas County Attorney Rob Henneke. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. In that interview last night, Senator Cruz went on to say, look, I don't know if this is something that's going to happen, but he thinks it's a good idea. What do you think? Is it possible?
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me on Fox and Friends First. It is possible. It happens all the time. In fact, President Trump has already called this an interesting idea in describing Senator Cruz's El Chapo Act, where you seize the $14 billion in proceeds from his drug cartel and you use it to pay for border security. Criminal asset forfeiture is used by the Department of Justice all the time. They take the proceeds, they put them in a fund with wide latitude to use that, albeit not in this scale, but it's a practice that's commonly done and is perfectly lawful.
Okay, so it is possible. I think that's what a lot of people were curious about. I have another question, though. I mean, I would assume that Mexico probably wants this money as well.
Right.
He was a terror in that country. He killed so many people. Would they have a say in this?
Well, they wouldn't, because the action is done by the Department of Justice here, connected to the criminal prosecution and the conviction of the drug kingpin. And look, this elegant, out-of-the-box proposal by Senator Cruz is not just El Chapo, but also future convictions from other drug cartel members to help fund border security and to build the wall.
So
it's our money.
Break this down. How would this happen? How long would this take? Is this something that, we would see in the near future?
Well, the elegance of the bill from Senator Cruz, it's only a 3-page bill. It's a very simple proposal that would designate these funds in the account to be used for this purpose. The power, though, already exists with the Department of Justice once they seize these funds to be able to put them to law enforcement type purposes. So really the length of time is going to be how complicated it is to unpack the criminal empire of El Chapo and to find his assets and to seize them. But once they're seized and captured and put in the asset forfeiture fund, then they can be directed by the Department of Justice and put to a just use, keeping in mind that these funds have come from decades of terror on the American public from the drug empire.
Yeah, that's find and seize. That's
Right.
part of the
Yeah. I
problem.
still think it's fascinating that you say that Mexico wouldn't have any say in this, considering those assets are in their country. But we shall see. All right. Rob Henneke, thank you so much for your time this morning. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
All right.
It is 36 minutes after the hour. Critics are calling out President Trump for installing a golf simulator at the White House.
What they didn't tell you, though, is that there was already one there under President Obama. Of course, nobody talked about it back then. Carly Shimkus joins us with the social media reaction coming up next.
People rushed to the hospital after severe turbulence. The Delta flight from California making an emergency landing in Nevada.
I actually flew in my seat and hit the top.
One lady was in the bathroom with her kid. She came out all bloody. It was like a movie.
The turbulence tipping over a drink cart and causing a huge mess in the cabin. The airline has apologized. Another Delta flight forced to evacuate for a fire in an overhead bin. A battery overheating on the tarmac in New York City. A flight attendant put the fire out.
Rough day.
Yeah.
The Pentagon calling for an investigation as military families reveal major problems with privatized housing.
I have felt the helplessness of a fellow Marine Corps spouse as she held her new baby and sobbed while we stood under a collapsing, moldy ceiling in her home at Camp Lejeune.
Absolutely unacceptable. Military families have reported rats, toxic mold, and lead in their homes. Some think those conditions have led to disease and even birth defects in their kids. In a statement, the Army says, quote, "It is unacceptable for our families who sacrifice so much to have to endure these hardships in their own homes."
Terrible.
All right, Minnesota Congresswoman freshman Ilhan Omar refusing to answer a reporter's questions about her tweet slamming the president.
This morning, you said the president trafficked.
What is wrong with you?
Question about your tweet. You had a tweet saying the president trafficked in hate.
Yes, I tweeted. There's a response. You can run that and have a nice day.
Wow. Okay. Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7 Sirius XM 115 here with more on the viral confrontation. I mean, a reporter's job is to ask questions.
Yeah, and man, oh man, is she giving Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez a run for her money in terms of media coverage?
Yeah, these freshmen do not like all the attention from the media. They want to be left alone.
Yeah. Well, she is facing a lot of criticism, especially from journalists, for that exchange with CNN's Manu Raju. S.E. Cupp, CNN host, tweets, "You're a public servant now. That's a journalist just doing his job. There's nothing wrong with him," kind of like what you were saying, Jillian. Politico's John Bresnahan saying, "If you don't want to face questions from reporters, don't run for Congress." And then Twitter user Brenda also chimes in saying, "Rookie mistake on her part. She'll figure it out." She also got into that testy exchange with Special Envoy to Venezuela, Elliot Abrams, yesterday, and she started off that conversation by calling him Mr. Adams.
Yeah. And she actually, I mean, there were some fair points made there, but it wasn't very polite, I guess, to say in that House hearing. All right, I actually saw something about this a couple weeks ago, and it's been turned into something more. If you haven't seen the Fyre Fest documentary about that whole disaster, this is interesting.
Well, so Hulu and Netflix, they both released documentaries about this infamous Fyre Festival. It was supposed to be this idyllic experience, turned out to be a total disaster. And now North Carolina Congressman Mark Walker has tweeted a video that compares it to the Green New Deal. Watch.
All these things that may seem big and impossible are not. It gives people that type of energy, that type of power.
If you saw the documentary, you realize that it's really all about the fact that they created this hype video around the Fyre Festival, and that would, I guess, be the hype video for the Green New Deal. Kill off all the cows. David says, actually, Fyre had a much better chance of success. Another Twitter user says, spot on. I ask, what if the cows are willing to work? Uh-oh. We'll have to wait and see about that.
No
so
planes,
I guess
no emissions,
the point there sounds good on paper. I don't know how practical it is, though.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So a room-sized golf simulator sounds like my dream come true.
Yeah, it really does. You're going to have to visit the White House, Julian. So President Trump just installed a new golf simulator in the White House. Sounds pretty bad considering it's coming on the heels of the report about all the executive time that he's taking. The body of that Washington Post report, you learn that he's just replaced the one that was put in place by President Obama, and he also paid for it $50,000 of his own money. So not as bad as one may think, although I do think it's funny how President Trump, President Obama, they golfed a whole lot, and even when they are on the golf course, they got to golf at the White House. I guess it is your dream come true, right?
It is my dream come true. Sometimes, just taking a few swings out there can relieve a little stress.
Yeah, it can relieve a little stress.
Reminds you of the UN curtain thing, though, with Nikki Haley. They gave her all that flack, and Obama actually bought those.
It's exactly the same thing
It's very
there.
similar. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Carly.
Thank you,
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
It is just about 45 minutes after the hour. Happy Valentine's Day. In case you forgot to get your special someone a gift, we have last-minute deals that won't break the bank and help you stay out of trouble if you forgot that gift.
Why are you looking at me? Hey, let's check in with Steve Doocy, see what's coming up on Fox and Friends. I know Steve got a gift for the wife.
Yep.
Yes.
Hey.
Oh, no, come on.
It's okay. Pep Boys is open on the way home. We're going to talk about about how much we have to give thanks to our loved ones today with Valentine's Day. We've got a special surprise. We're going to talk about the news of the day. It sounds like Congress is about to vote on that budget border deal. We're going to talk to Congressman Devin Nunes about that. Also, former Kansas Secretary of State Chris Kobach. Nobody has known more about immigration in this country than he. Judge Anna Napolitano, Dana Lash, and Tim Tebow's got a new documentary. Plus, this is the part we're so excited about. We are throwing a wedding live on Fox and Friends today. There's the couple. A former Air Force medic of 8 years is saying "I do" to her police officer fiance. We've got them here. Everybody's going to be dressed up. We got the cake. We got the flowers. We're going to send them on a dream honeymoon. It's all going to happen on Fox and Friends toward the end of our 3-hour telecast.
He's like amazed. He's like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
It's going to be great.
Again, Steve, I want to hear that.
I do. All right. Coming up.
All right.
Multi-purposeful flowers.
Yeah, the wedding will be cool. Thank you, Steve. Okay, welcome back. Another 2020 presidential hopeful under fire yet again over claims of staff mistreatment. Minnesota Democrat Amy Klobuchar accused of office outbursts, even throwing objects. This according to a new Yahoo News story which interviewed former staffers. Klobuchar, the moderate Democrat, has admitted to being a tough boss and says she has high expectations. If you want to do business with the city of Los Angeles, you're going to have to reveal any ties with the NRA. The LA City Council unanimously passing a new ordinance requiring contractors to disclose connections to the organization. The National Rifle Association has reportedly threatened to sue over this ordinance, claiming cause contractors that it can cause them to sever NRA ties over fears that it could